Good morning, everyone. This is Waoud Darmaki from the Federal Authority for Government Human Resources. Thank you for joining us today for this exciting session on HR data and workforce intelligence, transforming insights into action. Our session today will be led by Maysa Al-Muhtar, Country HR Lead at Oracle, Iman Nasif, HCM Applications Advisor at Oracle, Mr. Luay Zaiter, Senior Director at Oracle. Our speakers will highlight how HR data and workforce intelligence empower organizations to transform workforce information into actionable strategies. By analyzing trends and employee needs, leaders can make more informed decisions, address skill gaps, and drive organizational performance. I encourage you all to think about your own experiences and insights. Let's explore this together and share our thoughts. Please feel free to share any questions or comments you have in the chat box throughout the session. We will address all questions at the end. Thank you.
شكرا ست وعود. Thank you very much. صباح الخير جميعا. Good morning. Thank you for joining our session today. Definitely, I want to go to the audience that we have, and probably most of you that you've attended with us. آخر تقريبا 3 ل 6 شهور نحن عم نشتغل مع فهر على this platform, and we discussed many of the programs or the changes that happen in the workplace and the environment about the employee platform. حكينا عن ال productivity, حكينا عن ال strategies to set up and meet the talent, حكينا عن a skill based organization, حكينا عن ال efficiency and the tools that helps the employees give their best at work, حكينا عن ال performance management and the performance assessment. Definitely all of this fall under the umbrella of how we can bring a better employee community, what tools and technologies we can provide for our employee and organization to perform better, and definitely what are the different objectives or missions or strategies that the organization can set up لحتى تواكب العصر الحالي and the modernization. And we see definitely that the Gulf and the GCC region, they are leaders today in implementing all these new strategies and modernizing their organization. وبعود بكرر, I want to thank ست وعود and Fahar for leading this initiative across the region, and that you are part of that platform as well. Today, مثل ما قالت ست وعود, نحن we will talk about the data and specifically to the employee community, بس data in general. إذا بدنا نرجع بالوقت little bit in the time, 10-15 years back, there was a new concept that came يعني with the new social media that came into place with the Facebook and the Instagram and all these technologies that depends on reading sentiments of the community. صار في concept جديد اسمه monetized data. Data equal money, data has certain value, and organization need to analyze and collect data about either citizens, either customers or employees for that reason to build their own strategy. And you build a strategy and you always monitor the data, how it interacts with you, so you'll be able to adapt, calibrate, and react accordingly. وعلى أساسها, I think a lot of companies and organizations in the world that are ahead of everybody else because they were able to read from those data. So session تبعنا today مع ميسا وإيمان around the data intelligence, what is the best strategy to collect data about the employee and the community and the sentiments of the employee, and what do we do with this data. And of course, أكيد لازم نحكي عن ال AI, دور الذكاء الاصطناعي to support this. So in the next 45 minutes, allow me to hand it over to Maysa and Iman to take us through that journey. Please, as previous sessions, share your comments, your questions, anything that you want to express through the chat, and we will be able to take your questions online. Please.
Thank you لؤي. يسعد صباحكم جميعا. زي ما لؤي ما تفضل وقال واخت وعود، النهارده ان شاء الله الفوكس هيكون على ازاي الداتا بتقدر تساعدنا to align whatever that we see happening within the HR and workforce intelligence مع البيزنس اوبجكتيفز للنهوض بطبعا المؤسسات والشركات. دي الاجنده اللي هندسكاس النهارده. بس قبل ما نبدا حابين ان احنا نعرف نسمع ارائكم من ناحيتكم من خلال البول ده. هنسكان الكيو ار كود من على الشاشه بالتليفونات، نفتح الكاميرا ونسكان الكيو ار كود، بياخدكم على سيرفي او بول، وقولوا لنا من وجهه نظركم او if you know the difference between HR data and workforce intelligence.
Can I be part of it as
Yes,
well?
of course.
Yeah.
Scan the QR code.
Let's do that. Okay. I've submitted.
Okay.
How much time we still have?
Let's give it like 20 more seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
هذا بس عن
Okay. عندنا تقريبا 28% they don't know the difference. 8% they know the difference. 19% maybe. Interesting.
So until the audience fill their answers, but I think it's an indication that the topics still need a little bit of clarification, and and the discussion today can help bring that discussion. حتى للناس اللي they know the difference, the الناس اللي they might not be able to differentiate. I think it's a good discussion for today, and
that's true.
It's good to start with that.
طب خلينا shed some light. Let's together كده explore the difference or understand the difference between HR data and workforce intelligence. مبدئيا when we say HR data, it's always whatever data that comes part of the workforce data, which is the employee data, the demographics, the definition of what kind of employees do we have, nationalities, gender data, absence data, percentage absenteeism, skills of employees, all of that happens to be HR data. Now, with workforce intelligence, it's the way you would analyze this data to help you with the decision making. Maybe I'll leave the floor Lamaisa to give us examples on how the HR data is different from the workforce intelligence and how we can use the workforce intelligence to drive our decision making process.
Thank you, Iman. Good morning, everyone. So this is the topic of the season now, yeah? So as you mentioned, Iman, and everyone, HR data is basically the raw data that any organization can have about anything related to employees. Let's take an example on demographics. So most of the companies would have, let's say, the ages of their employees as raw data. We just have it there in our HCM system, and that's it. This piece of data will not add any value if not analyzed, right? So we have to analyze this data. This is the workforce intelligence, so that it brings more value to the business. This is not only about demographic data, right? It might be about skills. It might be about any gaps that we have in our workforce. It might be about engagement scores. This is what helps us define our strategies and identify what needs to be done differently or better or in a different forum.
Absolutely. So bottom line, we can say that this workforce intelligence is what helps us to identify what KPIs do we need to work on from an HR perspective, what are the initiatives we need to take in order to mitigate the results of this data.
And to add to that, Iman, it also helps in planning, decision making, and executions.
True. That's very true. Now let's shed the light and look at the importance of the data-driven HR if we compare it to the intuition-based HR. There's a very interesting article, Maisa, from Forbes on this difference between intuition-based HR and evidence-based HR. It sheds the light on the pros and cons of how you can leverage sometimes experience over data, and how sometimes no, data is evidence more and it's solid more so that you can take a better decision. What do you think on this topic, Melissa?
See, intuition-based HR will never disappear.
Okay.
We cannot do our job without it, but we cannot do our job based on it solely, right? So everything that we do has to be a combination of both. Forget about the workplace and think of life in general. The more analysis and the more data you have about something, the better your decision. So if you're buying a car, okay, you think of the options, the competitors. How many cars do you see on the road? So you do have some data to assess what car you're going to buy. This data helps you ensure that this is the right choice. And it's the same in the workplace. So we do want to use our experience, and we are forced, and we have to use it in certain situations, right? So we cannot only count in data. An example of that is, let's say we have a leadership crisis. We cannot sit down and wait until we analyze the data to take the right actions. We have to use our experience, our intuition to act on that.
Okay.
So these two will forever go hand in hand. They complete each other, right? I personally don't think that a purely intuition-based decision/function will succeed in the long term, but also it has to go hand in hand with some data and analysis and statistics to deliver the best result.
It's actually so situational. Yani,
Exactly.
sometimes there are situations that mandates you applying your experience. So the article sheds the light on one a very interesting experience, which I honestly have experienced myself. It's recruitment decisions. Sometimes a hiring manager would take a very intuitive based decision on a specific candidate that he sees fitting the culture or qualified enough for the position, and ignore the data or the evidence-based data.
Yes.
And then this turns out to be a bad hire, for example.
And we were chatting about this, Iman, earlier, you and I think it's really important, for example, in recruitment, for you to ensure that the decision is right, look at what you have. Okay, so look at your employee population. Look at those who are your top performers, who have been here the longest, who you trust to do their job perfectly well, who are like, will never leave. This employee is so engaged and happy where they are, and they're unlikely to leave. Look at their trends, look at their skills, and maybe use that. We can call this data to make sound decisions in hiring a new member in the organization. So this is how it happens, right? So yeah, sometimes we always, and I think in one of the sessions we had earlier, we spoke about, do you hire for skills or do you hire for behavior? And again, we're back to say it's a combination of both, right? So
situational.
Iman, maybe I have some interesting questions from the audience, and 2 questions probably I'll ask now. We'll interrupt the flow, but it's really relevant to what you're saying now. So what's the difference? Workforce intelligence, it's a new terminology. Somebody from the audience asked, what's the difference between HR intelligence or workforce intelligence and analytics, HR analytics?
It works hand in hand. So workforce intelligence uses the HR analytics to come up with the trend analysis, with the
it's combined with the AI. So the intelligence is the advanced level.
The AI piece.
Yeah.
And the question to Maisa on what you mentioned now, what are the critical data points that you collect from HR perspective? What do you consider? Is it gender? Is it pay grade? Is it skill? What's the most?
That's a very good question. Thank you to whoever raised it. So there is no checklist and there is no right and wrong answer to this question. My next point was going to be about defining your objectives and setting your priorities. So it's important to collect data, but the first step in the process is to think of, why do I need this data?
Absolutely.
How will it help me meet my business objectives, right? So an example would be, if you as an organization, along with your business leaders, believe that there is an issue or there is a gap in diversity in your company. So the first thing would be for you to collect any data related to diversity, whether it's age, whether it's gender, whether it's nationality, and tackle it. This whole exercise is not an overnight thing. This is a journey that has to start in line with the business needs. So if we try to define what are the business priorities for the short to medium term, and how can data help in achieving those priorities, or if we want to call them KPIs. Based on that, you can define what data do you need. Because a very important element in this whole process is we do not want to have data that just sits in our systems unused.
Yeah, this is like overrely, or you overrely on data.
Exactly. And also, we need to always keep in mind the quality and privacy of our data, right? So we need to ensure that the quality is up to the standard, and we need to ensure that we treat this data with utmost confidentiality at any point in time, right? So yeah, this will always be linked to the business priorities. What might be important for me today might not be important for you, and vice versa.
Yeah, I have a few more questions, but I leave it for later. So which one do you need?
I think, Iman, if you allow me to maybe bring a topic to the table. You know, we speak about this all the time because both of us are in HR, yes, from different functions. But I think it's important to highlight some tips and hints on how can organizations successfully implement an evidence-based approach in HR. So we spoke about this being a journey. We spoke about taking baby steps towards this and that. We cannot do everything overnight. And we spoke about understanding the business needs and requirements before we start that journey. But is there anything you would like to add to this, maybe to help the process?
Okay, I think majorly best practices that the studies shows in line with taking those baby steps towards achieving or moving towards this HR culture, HR data culture, is ensuring that the quality of the data, as you've mentioned, very important to have a single source of truth to rely on, so that you can rely on the correct data that comes from a single source of truth. And at the same time, define what is the purpose. What purpose are we trying to achieve? So the top on the list of best practices is that you have to define what exactly do you want to achieve from data, right? So identifying the objective is very important. And then focusing on an engagement and communication cross collaboration between.
I think this is very important. I think this is very important.
Because you might have something in mind that does not relate much to operations, that does not relate much to finance, that doesn't have backed up with enough budget, etc., etc. So all of that, this collaboration plays a very important role in ensuring, and the analysis paralysis, as you've mentioned.
And yeah, back to that, Iman, I think also transparency is key through this process. So
yes,
from our experience, this is something that is very open. When we want to use the data, we have to ensure that employees who own this data, for instance, are aware, right? And this reflects in policies, it can reflect in contracts, it can reflect in communication, but it's important to lead this with transparency.
That's correct. That's correct. And interestingly, studies by Deloitte, McKinsey have mentioned and showed and proved the positive impact of following an evidence-based HR that would show results towards improved decision-making, greater credibility on the HR, which comes with part of the transparency, which is mentioned. So when this transparency is maintained, definitely by definition, then the HR will have more credibility in the organization. Definitely, the risk management is improved overall. You are taking a well-informed decision. So risk management.
So you're reducing risk.
You're reducing risk big time, enhancing organizational agility. Again, your reliance on data in your decision-making process, ensuring that the organization is agile and taking the right steps and being flexible at the same time, which definitely on the long term would make a stronger alignment with the business objectives and ensure a long-term success for the organizations.
Iman, إذا فينا ناخد a few minutes at this stage just to share an example of a real-life example of the impact of this approach. So مثل ما كلنا بنعرف نحن we always follow the employee life cycle, which starts at the recruitment stage, and ends at the offboarding stage. أنا HR lead, I know very well and no employees leave the organization for various reasons. But the moment I started looking into the results of the exit interviews was the time myself, along with the leadership team, started to come up with initiatives to tackle those specific reasons that are behind our employees' decisions to go somewhere else. So all these initiatives, and both of you would know this very well, that we put in place over the past 18 months approximately, were based on the data that we collected from the leavers.
That's interesting.
Right.
That's
So,
absolutely-
and the same goes with onboarding, for instance. So we always ensure that our new hires provide us with feedback through surveys, you know, to understand how did the journey go. Another good example here would be the stay interviews. Like those employees who are currently working for us, part of our teams, let's have what we call in the HR language a stay interview. Let's understand why are they still here? What do they like most about their job? Again, this type of data will help us continue doing the good things that we're doing and pick up on things that, as an organization, I'm not saying we need to change, but we need to look at from different angles or perspectives.
Okay.
So all of this data, when at hand, helps us govern and be very efficient all through those stages of the employee life cycle.
You've tackled many topics that's very important, and it's coming in the coming slides as well. We will talk about it in the coming slides. Now, okay, what would be the role of AI and predictive analysis in the workforce trends? Let's see together a short video on how what we do in Oracle using the Oracle Analytics platform would help and emphasize the role of AI in predictive analytics, and how would that help with seeing the future of workforce trends. Let's watch together the video, and then I'll take you through a short demo example.
The outcome
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the team or the audience did not hear probably the voice properly. It's mainly is the video or demonstration about how the analytics extract the data and analyze the data and makes decision. I think Iman in the next flow as well in the coming few minutes is going to show a live demonstration of how the data works. But Iman, before you go there, a question from the audience on the same topic that we discussed, what the difference between workforce intelligence and analytics. So the second question came from I think the same person, is that so intelligence depend on analytics and analytics use statistics to come up with a decision. Is that
That's
proper
correct. That's absolutely correct. So analytics analyzes the data, the raw HR data. So that's the difference that we've explored together. There is difference between HR data, raw HR data. Then you take this data and analyze it, which is the term analytics. And then with the workforce intelligence piece, you analyze this data, and with the use of AI, that helps you with the decision making, helps you draw some trending line, helps you understand what you should do with this data and insights. Right?
And it's fair to say that there are still some companies, organizations, governments, maybe across the globe, they are still collecting data. Probably they're seeing the patterns of those data, but probably no real impact on the decision being made to shift between strategies. So the question is how companies can move from just collecting data toward data intelligence or workforce intelligence.
That's a very interesting topic that we will look at after the demo.
Okay.
Let me take you through a very quick demo, an example of how the workforce intelligence would help with the decision making through this example. I am now using Oracle Analytics data or Oracle Fusion Data Intelligence, what we call it. And I'm logged in as Mary. Mary is a business leader that, of course, very important for her to keep an eye on the day-to-day KPIs. Whenever she logs into her team data, she's being presented with an analytics view or a very simple view of what's happening within her data, where she looks at that there is an 85 retention rate, which is great, definitely, but she needs to analyze this data, use this data analytics to help her with the decision making. Once she logs into her dashboard, she'll be able to see the team shift summary of...
You're not sharing the screen. Waoud, you're with us. Can you confirm that that we are sharing Oracle screen on the, just to make sure that everybody sees?
Yes, I can see it right now. Yes, it's clear.
Now you can see it.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Once she logs in, she's going to be presented with analytics about her team. She's going to be able to see the shift summary of her team on a weekly basis, the position capacity of her department, as well as the salary spend over the last quarters, as well as the trending and the forecast from the analytics. Where is she heading towards? This is very interesting because she can see that over the course of time, the coming 3 quarters, there's an exponential increase of salary spend in her department, which of course is very alarming and requires her attention. And that's why the analytics is colored with an amber color for her to take an action and comes to her attention. So she clicks on this particular analytics and she would like to understand what are the data, the contributing factors that impacted this exponential increase that is the system is forecasting. So she comes down here and then looks at the contributing factors. The screen is not getting. And this will take her to a more of a detailed dashboard that will tell her, okay, what was her overall salary spend over the last year? She'll be able to see that the employee salary spend is about this amount of money, and the contingent worker spend is with this value, the salary spend is with this value. If she scrolls down towards the bottom of the screen, she's going to be able to see how the salaries are distributed in her organization by the type of workers. So she gets more insight. Okay, what are the type of workers that is impacting her those exponential increase in the salary? Once she looks at this, she can explore further drivers, and this is the role of AI towards the predictive analytics of the workforce data. What happens is that the AI would look at the top contributing drivers that has affected this salary increase and will provide her with insights on what course corrections that she can take in order to mitigate this rise. So here she can see that the top contributing drivers are the salary for new hires. So there are efforts towards hiring new hires, and this is the top contributing factor among the factors that has been driving this exponential rise of salary. She can directly go ahead and create an action plan in order to drive this down or bring the numbers down. So she can say that this action plan will focus on salary spend savings, and she will put a target objective of the salary savings towards achieving a 39 million decrease in the salary spendings. And she would save and continue her action plan, and this will show her the impact on spend the coming quarters. She can still see that this target value is not yet within the targets. I can see that the projected spend is still over target, and she wants to bring that down further. She can save and continue this action plan, and then the system would help her with identifying or taking actions in order to mitigate that risk. So she would decide, I will go ahead and suspend those open requisitions. Once she decides on that, the system will present her with the number of requisitions that is available with her team. So she can see that there are around 40 requisitions with a progress bar to play with this number. And as well as if I cut down or suspend those requisitions, how many teams will be affected? So she's going to be able to see a holistic view of how this is going to impact their overall team. She's going to be able to see that this is impacting 4 business units, 12 hiring managers, and 12 teams affected. She goes back to the bar of the suspension and decrease that to maybe half. So instead of suspending 40 requisitions, she's going to suspend 20 requisitions, and she sees the analytics is performing quite well in the forecasting area, and her projected spend has decreased to 39, which is within the targets. She saves that and gets a summary of the action plan that she has implemented, and then move towards whatever that she has on her diary. Very insightful way of analyzing data. It helped her with understanding what contributing factors has affected the rise and the trending rise of the salary spend. And it also gave her the insights on how to mitigate that risk and bring down those exponential increase.
So Iman, I think in that short demo, you answered many of the questions that I received initially in the session. One of the questions was that the power or the role of predictive analysis to support the planning. And this is the direct example for the person who answered that question. So the system allows not only to read data, analyze data, but predict what's going to happen in the future and give some assessment, or I would say assess the risk based on that, propose some actions. And with each action has certain risk or certain impact, and the manager will be able at the end to make the right decision on that. Absolutely. So that's a predictive analysis or intelligence. It's an advanced level rather than just analytics or
absolutely.
So
I was so lucky with this.
Yeah, so many of the questions around that. Maybe one question I can take and ask Maysa. How can workforce intelligence support talent acquisition, retention, and engagement strategies? You touched that point.
We touched on that a bit, and as we said, we spoke about retention, and it's important that we understand why are employees leaving.
Yeah.
Analyze the data from the exit interviews, and come up with initiatives to tackle the reasons behind their decisions. Right. So, and it goes along the way of any stage of the employee life cycle.
Okay. So before the demo, I think we received a question about what are those steps towards moving to an HR culture-driven culture within the organization, and what are those steps that would help drive action into insights.
Yeah.
So if we look, and we've discussed that already, you've mentioned that centralizing the data, having one single source of truth is very important towards achieving the HR culture-driven organization. So centralizing data and ensuring the data quality would come as a first step, and then understanding through the analysis this data, how you would understand this data through the analysis presented to you. Okay, this would help you all the time draw insights and conclusions, because based on the data you would come up with initiatives, you would come up with conclusions, and embed those decisions, initiatives into your HR processes. So you gave an example about how the onboarding experience has shaped some initiatives within the HR, how the exit interview output has shaped some initiatives in the HR. So this is exactly what the steps, the strategies towards achieving the driving action through insights. But so embedding those insights into your HR processes is crucial into achieving this strategy. And at the final stage, definitely, like any initiative that you are rolling out, is continuous monitoring and to keep improving along the way. Now, What would be the strategies for aligning HR data insights with business objectives? And I think this also touched bases on a
Yeah.
question that was raised. So how can we align, Maysa, in your view, HR data with business goals?
As we spoke a bit earlier, we need to understand what the business wants to achieve, right? Understand where are we today, what is driving us forward, and what data do we need to achieve that. As we said, this is not an overnight project that we can accomplish. This is a journey, and it needs to be taken step by step, right? It's very important at any given point to ensure that we establish a good state of collaboration between the various functions, HR, business units, supporting functions, and so on. This collaboration would open our eyes to things that we might not be aware of, and we can collaborate together to do what is right for the business. Another thing is to ensure that predictive analytics that we just spoke, to ensure that we use those analytics that you just spoke about, Iman, because as you both said, this helps us predict what's going to happen based on what we currently have and where we currently are. And then we need to translate the data into business language. So for example, Mary had an overspend on salaries. She did the analysis and the analytics. She understands where is this coming from? What is she going to do to stop, fix, or improve this? Okay. And then the last thing would be to embed the insights in the decision-making process. So we analyzed our data. We know what needs to be done. How is this going to be embedded in our decision-making process? So for example, back to recruitment or onboarding, we need to ensure we have a certain diversity target that we meet. Because of all the analytics that we have in place, we can say we can only hire X, Y, and Z for a period of 1 year. So this is how we embed those insights in any decision-making process that we take.
Absolutely. And I think this was evident in the example we've shown, like how Mary has embedded those insights into the decision-making process by deciding to cut down on the recruitment activities that is upcoming in the coming quarters. And this is very important because, again, this is how you have tied the business objectives with the HR.
Exactly.
On that, instead of talking about Mary, as somebody is asking the question, maybe to Maysa. And you know, we run such type of analysis in our organization. We implement the latest technologies, and we try to always drive a better community.
Yeah.
Can you give a real life example about how in Oracle you've collected data, you've analyzed the data, and you change some certain behavior?
That's a tricky one. So I'll try to be generic. Okay. Yes. So in Oracle, we do have what we call our engagement surveys that they go around once every year. And this is how we collect and determine the engagement scores of our employees. These happen across Oracle, across the globe, and the results are assessed based on countries, based on businesses, and on functions. So as a business leader, you know, you can see the results of your team, I can see the results of my region, and so on and so forth. An example on the actions we took from this survey is the employee week that we launched last year, right? So employees wanted to spend more time together. They wanted to spend more time with HR. They wanted to spend more time with employees from other business groups. And this was obvious in the results of the engagement survey. And that's why the decision was that once every quarter, we have 1 week that we call an employee week. And during this week, sure, as you both know, we have sessions on career development, on wellness and well-being. We have workshops, we have guest speakers, team building activities. We have lunch together, we have roundtables, we have managers' communities to tackle anything that we need to tackle at that point in time. So this is, in general, one of the things that we implemented as a result of data that we had from a survey that ran across the region.
And obviously, for next year, when you run the engagement survey one more time, the data should show a response to that event.
Of course, it did. So we did have our survey post the introduction of this initiative, and we saw that the score against those criteria has improved a lot.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Very good.
Interesting. Okay, let's hear from the audience. So in your opinion, how will the use of this data intelligence framework impact organizations? Scan the QR code.
I will take this one as well.
All right.
And the question is,
How will the use of data intelligence impact organizations? Let's have a look at how people are interacting.
I did submit.
Mhm.
Better decision making, better culture,
Realignment,
alignment. Yeah.
accuracy, fairness.
Better decision making. Right.
I like fairness.
Yes. Employee motivation. Improve informed decisions. Transform, smart, growth, competitive edge.
Mhm.
Realign. Interesting. These are all, I think this goes in line with the conclusion of what we have been discussing today. So what key improvements has study shown in this journey of achieving this data-driven HR? So studies have shown an increase in business productivity by 25%, definitely enhanced decision-making. No one can argue with this. Improve talent acquisition and retention because of what exactly examples that you have mentioned, and 50% decrease in employee turnover because again, if employees are engaged, employees
Yes.
become happy, of course turnovers are decreased.
And if they're also part of the process.
Exactly.
Right. So,
yes.
and that's
Yeah.
that would go back to
That's
our
very important
initial
that-
conversation.
Yes,
They
all
feel that they are part of this.
That's right.
They
Part of
are
the change, part of the
exactly,
decision-making
part of-
process.
Exactly. So this is a very important aspect, like for retention.
Yeah.
So do we have any more questions?
Let me see. I think we did there are some questions, but we did answer them already through the different items or topics we discussed in the demo. So I will not repeat the questions. No more question. I have more questions, probably a little bit from Waoud, so I will wait till I receive those questions. Definitely, we can have more sessions on the analytics. If there's any specific requirement from any client in the region, being in Gulf or outside Gulf, we can connect as well. So you can share your requirement with Waoud or with Iman Maisa, and then we can connect with you directly. And I have a long list of questions, so I'll try to pick a few in
I think we have
the
1
time.
minute left.
Yeah. So would you tell us when we stop, because we're about time now, but I will ask the questions. Yeah, this is a good question. All of them are good questions, but this is an interesting one. How can leaders overcome resistance to data collection or data decision-making process, the whole thing? How can because employees might resist to share information, either because of privacy, either because they might think it impacts their career or their situation inside the company, they prefer not to share.
I would say this topic is just like any other change, right? So change is in most cases resisted in the early stages. I think from my perspective, selling value, so show people the value of this, ensure they understand why are we doing this as an organization, be transparent, communicate properly, and it will happen gradually.
Yeah, thank you, Maisa. I think second question, I think in line with the same challenge that you mentioned. So now we're talking about analytics. collection of data analytics, then workforce intelligence, then predictive intelligence. So in 3 to 5 years from now, Iman, with the technology being provided and the AI being the dominance here, what will happen? How we can predict this thing will be in the future?
I think the very rapid evolvement of the use of AI, you never know what will happen in the future, you know. So AI are taking actions on your behalf. They are being actionable as well. So in the future, I think instead of predicting, now we are predicting. They will take the action in the future.
Yeah, I think it will come with more authority, not authority, probably.
Controlled authority.
Actionable insights.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
every transaction will come immediately with some proposition to a manager to take action, and probably also it will give the employees some sentiment or some direction. So even before going deep into some behavior or attitude or something, the system will be able to give some recommendation.
Which I think is great, because rather than the leader spending time on trying to analyze a problem,
It will
they
come
will
to the
spend
employee.
more time fixing it,
Definitive,
right?
right?
Exactly.
Yes.
So
A few more interesting questions. I will only take few more. Yeah, this is a good question. How can smaller organization with limited resources benefit from this technology and this and manage this intelligence effectively?
okay, I think it's important, as we said earlier, to define your objectives. What do you want to achieve? So is this something your company is ready to look into? Is this something that will impact your decisions to achieve your business objective? Is this something that will help you build the right culture? So I think the most important step that any organization should look into, whether big or small, is what is the end in mind? What do I want to achieve? And as we said earlier, we can start by taking baby, very little steps. We don't have to implement the whole thing at once. Slowly but surely, and gradually, it will get there. It also depends on the willingness of this organization to drive this.
Yeah.
Is there a business need for us to invest in something that will help us analyze our data?
And what's the impact?
And what's the impact this will have on our business objectives?
Yeah, thank you, Maysa. I think this is more from company and strategy set, but I will talk a little bit about the technology. So definitely with our offering, and later we can discuss with you one-to-one, the people who asked the question, how we can provide the best, I would say the most accommodated offer, and our value, how we can bring the value to you with the best affordable situation. So there are different offering in Oracle, with the technology being cloud technology that does not require heavy investment from organization, and it's subscription based, so pay as much as you use. This will allow organizations with different sizes to accommodate that technology, and that's the objective of moving toward cloud, so everybody can embrace that technology and benefit from it. Another interesting question from the audience, and this is to Maysa. What are the ways, the different ways that we can make sure that there's no poor interpretation of data or misuse?
Okay, interesting. We spoke about data quality and privacy, right? And I think it's important that whoever deals with data is trained enough to handle this, right? So as you said, Luay, data is money in today's world, and that's why it is marked as confidential. So it cannot be available for everyone, and it should not be available for everyone. Whoever is going to work through and on data should have the right trainings to understand how to tackle this without, one, misusing the data they have, misinterpreting the data they have, and sharing the data they have. So it all comes together as one bundle, right?
Very good, of course. Yeah, definitely. And employee, definitely, when they participate to those engagement surveys, there's always the disclaimer and the clause and the protection.
And I'm sure you both know, for us in Oracle, even us in HR, we have to attend annual trainings on data privacy, security, information protection, and so on.
Yeah, I think in companies, usually there are policies that protect and support employee privacy and employee voice as well. Those are the questions that I received from the audience. Definitely, probably we get more post the session. But now I think we spent almost 55 minutes with you discussing the analytics part, which is an important topic that you proposed earlier. And I want to thank again Fahar team, Fahar organization, Sit Waoud in running the whole show and making sure that she responds to the audience need, I would say, or proposition. I'm honored also to say and happy that we are working with most of the governments in the GCC region globally, but mainly in the Gulf region with the UAE, government of UAE, with the government of Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, Kuwait, with all these organizations to make sure that we listen to their needs, to their observation, to their aspiration.
Yep.
And I'm proud to say that we are part of a community that aspire and they lead this way across the globe. If we want to compare between different regions, the Gulf region is doing a leap in that regard in terms of HR relations and employee community and platforms. And I think we will see a lot of great initiatives and programs running across these countries. Sit Waoud, thank you again. I want to thank the audience. We have a big audience listening to us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Waoud, anything that you want to add to this, please?
Thank you, Luay, Maysa, and Iman. Thank you so much. Thank you all for your participation and engagement. We look forward to seeing you at our upcoming sessions, where we will continue to explore new and emerging topics in the field of human resources. Thank you so much.
Shukran. Thank you, Sit Waoud.
Have a good day.